We have one in Brandon, Mississippi, and one in Opelika, Alabama, where we're taking on not only just the metering but billing and everything, right? So it's whatever the customer wants us to maintain, and we can get a lot deeper dive into that as far as do you want us to what happens when the transmitter gets damaged? Is that something we go out and replace and maintain, or is that something the city wants to do? Do you want us to do turn off, turn ons? Do you want us to test your meters each year for certain things? So we would need a workshop session to figure out exactly how that's detailed, but we're more than happy to service you in any way.
Okay, and I get that. I guess I didn't phrase it well. What's your staffing level here in Florida, or like if you're doing Newberry,
Yep.
where your turnaround time to bring somebody here? If we got to that negotiation, are you already providing that level of service to nearby utilities, or would you have to ramp that up to be able to have that kind of response time we might need?
Currently, right now, we would ramp it up to at least one person, and then so they would be dedicated maybe to you and somebody else as well. But we would provide very quickly response times. Currently, just now, we probably have 10 people in the southeast that solely focuses on meters. And Bill is right in Ocala that is y'all's outside sales that can be here, and Ocala is 30, 45 minutes away. So we would definitely be able to respond very quickly, as well as maintain it as well. And we would just need to have a workshop to understand what that looks like. Do we need to have a full-time person here, or are we looking at 2 weeks out of the month here, or 1 week out of the month? So that's all we would want to do, is have a workshop to understand what y'all's true desires are for that maintenance. Did that answer your question, Mr. Ambrose? Thank you. You good?
I just want to make sure that I'm hearing you say, in going through and utilizing your system, you can pick up almost any situation that's happening that would cause a difference or change in the water usage, whatever the problem might be.
Yes, we would work with y'all to set your thresholds, or whatever you want those thresholds to be, right? So typically we would say 1 gallon per hour for 24 hours is a leak, right? Mm-hmm. Or we might say, hey, we want to put a high threshold in here. If a customer uses over 500 gallons in an hour, we want to be notified of that so we can contact the customer. Now, sometimes you may want to change that. Irrigation meters may use 1,500 gallons within an hour, right? So you might want to adjust those thresholds as well. And we can do that over there. That's what makes Sensus's network so great. So if you're getting a leak from a customer that is a leak and you want to disable that, you can, like a commercial account or something to that effect.
I guess what I was thinking about also is, on several occasions, we have gotten complaints from various citizens about excessive water usage, and they don't know where the water is going.
Yeah, so we could definitely help with that, either through alarms, or if we're maintaining the system, help with that as well. So typically, we'd go there and see if the meter's turning, right? If the meter's turning, most likely water's going through that meter. You could, I don't know if y'all have a valve on the back side of the meter. You could shut the meter off on the front side, and if that water stops, then that typically the water's going through. Sometimes y'all are pretty low to the sea level, right? So sometimes water doesn't bubble up right away. So, but we could definitely help in those situations to let them know if they need to call a plumber or something to that effect. Okay. And with our valve too, it goes in the same lay length as your current meters. We don't have to add on to the back end to make that work.
Got it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Commissioners, any other questions? Anyone from the audience? Questions?
I'm Ron Hemingway. I'm the CEO of Cyber Bodyguards. I'm a local resident.
He should come.
I'm curious, what kind of security system do you have? You got transmitting from the meter to the tower. What are you guys using for security mechanisms? I heard you use tokens, random tokens? Are you storing those tokens? How are you protecting those? Some cyber issues. When was the last time you guys ever had a pen test performed on your meters?
Oh, so we can.
Pen test is a penetration test. Basically, it's a hired hacker to come in and actually try to break into your system.
Census actually hires those hackers to come in and try to break into, especially their system. We can encrypt the transmission as well, so
But
that you
is it
can't even,
encrypted now?
the utility has the ability to select that or not.
Okay.
So it can, you can encrypt it, so that means you couldn't access that transmitter without a token
Okay.
that you would get. So yes,
You know what level of encryption they're using to protect?
AE 256.
Okay. Because that was the biggest thing I was thinking about. Just the
Absolutely.
transmission of that from the meter and stuff. I did hear about the alarm systems. I like that. That was some good stuff.
Absolutely, Mr. Hemingway.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Jim, did you need his name for the record? I think he gave his name. Jim, do you need his name for the record?
It's Ron, last name Hemingway. Hemingway, Hemenway.
Anyone on Zoom, Kim?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, we have one hand from Mike Hasselbeck. Mr. Hasselbeck, you're on with the commission. You're a little loud, Mr. Hasselbeck. You're on with the commission, but you are a little loud.
Okay, I'm gonna cut from the microphone. Yeah, I'm on the iCloud website that you mentioned earlier in the presentation, just for a point of clarification, the minimum flow that they can detect is 0.1 to 0.3 GPM. And I think you stated 0.03.
Oh, goodness.
0.03 GPM is when our meter starts accurately registering.
Yeah, the website has a different number, just you might want to check that. The second question was, the question I had was this acoustic leak detector, is it operating separately, independently from the flow meter? And you use them for an acoustic leak from the pipe? And if so, why aren't you just, this is what basically comes around at 2 a.m., why aren't you just monitoring the flow? I don't quite understand the role of that meter, of that sensor.
Couldn't really understand. I think you were talking about the mainline leak detector, what we call our Permalog. We put that on a gate valve, typically, or some type of valve, and we wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning because that's typically when the noise outside, acoustic noise, is the lowest. And then we just want to make sure we hear that at 3 o'clock in the morning. Does that answer your question, Mr. Hasselbeck?
I understand that, but why aren't you using a flow meter? If you can measure the ultra low rates, what is the need for an acoustic sensor?
The meters going to the house, the acoustic is monitoring actually the distribution lines. So like the main lines running down the road versus your service lines. Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, we have one more. Mr. Griff Machinsky is on. I'll allow him to come on.
Hey, Griff. Griff actually works with Census. Census also has several sales reps in Florida as well.
And again, can you hear me on the audio now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Griff Machinsky. I'm the manufacturer sales representative for Census here in the North and Central Florida territory. I'm out of Jacksonville, Florida. I apologize for not being able to be there in person tonight. I'm recovering from surgery myself, and unable to drive at the moment. But I wanted to chime in for in direct response to Mr. Hasselbeck's questions as he just called in to verify, in fact, with the iPearl meter, the solid state meter, it does in fact begin registering usage at a 0.03 gallon per minute flow rate, and then the accuracy. The low flow accuracy threshold begin at a 0.11 gallon per minute flow rate, which is the lowest flow rate capabilities in the industry. you could really think about it as we're capable of measuring drops of water from a leaking spigot, if you will. Secondly, responding to his question about leak detection, the Permalog devices, whether or not we're monitoring flows for leakage. Our system's actually capable of doing all of that at once. The Permalog acoustic leak detection device is something that's monitoring the pipes themselves, the distribution lines, measuring the pressure waves caused by leaks, cracks, breaks, etc. That makes an acoustic signature that travels through the pipes, and those devices register that. Typically, they work in the middle of the night because the system is at its most quiet or dormant functioning at that time, so it's the ideal listening conditions. But then on the user side, the flow side, all of the data that the system collects, the analytics and all that absolutely paints a picture of water loss. We have a lot of metrics that we track, and the city would be in position then to analyze all of that usage. They can create groups of meters by neighborhoods or by zones or routes or whatnot, and analyze the amount of water being put into the system from the water plant. Compare that to where, how it's being measured through the water meters. It gives them an extremely detailed view of the water usage and potential loss that's happening there out in the system. One of the great advantages of those solid state meters, both the iPearl and the Ally, without having moving parts, I wanted to reemphasize Blake's comments about how it doesn't slow down, it doesn't wear out. So this is a meter that's going to last a full 20 years. 20 years from now, it's going to be measuring just as a brand new meter and going in, where the cities, I've watched in on the previous presentation and learned a little bit that one of the city's current problems is that the mechanical meters, they're wearing out. So that, they've been third-party tested for accuracy issues. That's a problem that's associated with the older technology of mechanically moving meters. As more they're used, those parts wear out, and they register at a lower and lower accuracy rate. That favors the customer from a billing aspect, but certainly disfavors the city from a revenue collection, as well as water loss, environmentally and reporting to the state and all of that. So the iPearl, the solid state meters that we introduced into the market, we're getting close to 15 years ago now, have really revolutionized what we're able to do, or what we're able to enable you as a city to do, to collect accurate readings and be extremely confident in being able to collect that data, collect that revenue, and the enormous positive customer service impact that you'll see from that. I think you would, if you would talk to any number of those utilities that were put up on a screen earlier by Blake, and we've got well over, I think our count's now up actually over 50 utilities just in the state of Florida using this system. So I thank you for the opportunity. Look forward to potentially working with you in the future, and hopefully meeting you face to face when I'm able to get back on my feet.
That we get our meters read once a month, and then we get basically charged for sewer. You double our water bill, and basically that's what the sewer is. Is that correct, or is there more of a calculation to it?
Water and sewer have their own rate. So there's a base rate for water and there's a base rate for sewer.
Right.
And they're built on different tier systems.
So you are monitoring our sewer?
It's based off of what the water flow is off the water meter.
Well, that's what I'm
So
saying.
yeah, it's off the meter, but they're on different tier systems and
Okay,
different
well,
pays.
so my question is, one time, well, like recently, it's been 80 degrees outside. And everything's blooming, so I'm watering, so forth. One time, we had kind of a drought, and my water bill almost doubled because of my sewer got amplified. So I was wondering, either your system or the other one that's available with these smart meters, will there be any way to distinguish, like, since yours reads 24 times a day, correct? Yeah. So you would know whether there's usage on a particular day or a pattern of days that's watering your plants so that we're not being overcharged as a sewer. You see what I'm saying? So they said there was no way to adjust my bill when I spent 1 week because it was high temperature watering, but I wasn't going into sewer. So is there a way with these new systems that for people like me on occasion, we could get a little break on that kind of an issue?
The way it works is the way sewer's built is through the water side. So it comes in on water coming in through the water meter is water going out. It doesn't matter if you're irrigating or if you're using it in the house, or that's how it's built. That's how the
Right.
tier cycle works. That's why there's a gap. So on your tier cycle in water, for instance, you get your first round in water is like up to 3,000 gallons.
Sure.
Sewer goes up to 5,000. So there is some discrepancy in there built into the way the billing works.
Okay.
But it's not, I can't go in and delineate, we can't really run it off of like an honor system because everybody would be coming in telling us they were watering
Well-
every day. So it's hard to adjust. So what we've been doing is there's an option for irrigation meters as well. I don't even know if you know that's an option. So you can come in and get an irrigation meter. All it does is charge you for water that you irrigate with outside.
So you would have a separate line?
You would have
for
another
just-
meter just for irrigation, just for your outside water source and all that.
It's still in the same box
Yep.
out by the street?
Same box, everything. I have two at my house. I have an irrigation meter and a regular meter.
Well, I don't
And-
have a sprinkler system though. I use hoses.
Yep, I have like my spigots, all my outside spigots run off my irrigation meter.
So you would have to have your outside spigots hooked to
I have
irrigation.
just a separate run on mine, and then there's some houses in like Bailey Estates, most of the houses.
Okay.
So,
Well, I have an older house, so that wasn't an option. My question was basically if I had a way to, if there was just an occasion, because it's not like it happens all the time. But, I have basically, say I have a $75 water bill every month. That's water and sewer and trash and everything. 1 month, it was $150 because I was watering every other day because it was a drought. And there was no way to determine, it wasn't a broken pipe or anything like that. When you're reading every day or every hour, you would know that it was irrigation versus something else if it was an extremely extraordinary circumstance. You know what I'm saying? Is there any way for you as billing to be able, with software or whatever, to distinguish something like that? Because again, I wouldn't need a whole meter all the time, but there are rare times of the year that, like now, we're starting to water to keep the plants that are out there from dying. We're getting rain, you know how that works. Well, that was my question. I was just, listening to the way that these smart meters are, and with the ability to monitor your usage, it just seems to me like, if I'm watering the grass, I shouldn't be paying the exorbitant sewer in those rare occasions. You know what I mean? I still believe, you should get all the money you deserve, but, it shouldn't all be going towards sewer in those instances. You know what I mean? Something to think about if you would. Maybe there's a way to, where people with older houses who don't have separate lines or the ability to do that, could catch a break once in a while, Thank you.
There's no one else on Zoom at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council. Thank you, city team.
Mayor, this is another one of my items. Keith Godwin approached me a few weeks ago about a addressing issue on alternate US 27. Has to do with the post office and the 911 addressing. So Keith Godwin is here to address that with the commission. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Keith Godwin. I am the Alachua County 911 Coordinator. Two of my major responsibilities, one is to make sure the 911 system works and that we can locate a caller to 911. And the second other big responsibility is addressing. Our office addresses the entire unincorporated county, all municipalities, and the University of Florida. Just to take you back in a little history about what's going on here in High Springs, I think it was back in 2014 or 2015, Sheriff Darnell entered into an agreement with the City of High Springs to provide dispatch of the High Springs Police Department. Within that agreement, it required that the downtown core area of High Springs be readdressed to the county grid. So at that time, I only had one GIS technician in the office. GIS is Graphical Information System or science, people might say. So it's software-driven mapping. So everything we do is digital mapping. We have an address point on every structure in the city of High Springs. So when a fire apparatus or a sheriff's deputy comes out here, there's a dot on that map in that apparatus that shows them where that address is at, and it actually draws a line from where they're at to that structure. That's how technologically advanced it is today. Well, back to the 2014-15 time period, when I only had one person in the office, US Highway 27 runs from out of Columbia County, right past here, right out front here, hits the great outdoors and turns right and goes to Newberry. Back when the city of High Springs was addressed on its own addressing system, this building might have been 210 Northwest 1st Street or something like that. Was I close? So on the information that we had in our office, remember one GIS person doing all these other things, that was Northeast 1st Avenue from the great outdoors all the way up to Bev's. Well, it was also 1st Avenue running past this building, but it was a different quadrant. The mistake that was made at the time when we readdressed, we called that whole thing from the great outdoors to Bev's US Highway 27. And all the signs, there's 6 of them, on that 0.54 miles says US Highway 27. It is not US Highway 27. So what I'd like to do is rename that section, that 0.54 miles, to, I've got it right here, Northwest 186th Avenue. Bev's, the address to Bev's is 22984. That's the numerical to the building down there, to Bev's Better Burgers. There's 34 addresses there from Bev's to the Great Outdoors. There's 34. All the numbers would stay the same. So Bev's is still going to be 22984, but it's not going to be Northwest US Highway 27. The address would be 22984 Northwest 186th Avenue. My office will pay for the 6 sign blades that need to be manufactured by the county, and we'd ask that the city replace those, put them up themselves, change those out. My office we have almost a direct connection to Google, because there are still problems out that people have, and we try to resolve those. So we communicate with Google to get the map changed. We do things like that. We notify FedEx, the United States Postal Service, Sheriff's Department, ambulance service, everything. All those notifications are done by our office. The 911 center, I work with them every day. So as soon as I change it, it's going to be on the map that the ambulance has and that comes out here, Rescue 20 is right up the street. It'll be on their map right away because they use my map. So it's not, I'm sorry, it is not US Highway 27. It needs to be changed to another designation. But the good thing is those 34 address points will still remain the same number. That is the good part. We don't like to change addresses. We actually have, in a 12-month period, we have months where we don't change anybody's address, even if it's an error because of Christmas delivery, Thanksgiving, people trying to find their house, tax bills. So we have periods where we do not change anybody's address. That is my presentation right there, and you know, I'm hoping that we can do this and make it right. It is a mistake. My office made it. Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Do we have to go with Northwest 186th Avenue, or is this an opportunity for the city to, you know, call it High Springs Boulevard, or decide it
Yes, sir.
named after a citizen, you know, West,
Yes,
you know?
certainly you can do that. There's no duplication of an existing name and something that easily spelled or pronounced. Those are because people call 911, so you don't want some name that somebody can't pronounce and somebody we can't even type on the other end. So yes, you can do that. That is not a problem. Matter of fact, you could do it all the way to the river and make the whole thing. It doesn't have to be US Highway 27. I can't change a US Highway 27. I can't change a county road number, but there's roads all over everywhere that are state and county roads and US highways that have other names on them. So you can call that whole stretch anything you want, or just that section.
Okay, I appreciate that, because the other part of this, and I appreciate you saying that you made a mistake. As a citizen, I was here in 2014, and I said, that's not US 27.
I remember that.
Okay, so I'm like, years later, we're, you know.
Yeah, I'm man enough to say it was a mistake. You know, I have 3 GIS people in the office now. I had 1 person.
If we wanted to change the name, or we wanted to think about that, when would you need to know by?
It's
Versus just-
whenever you want to do it. There's no hurry. It's been wrong for 7 years.
So, okay. I mean, personally, Commissioner, I think we should take a look at that or talk to staff and give some feedback to staff. I think if there's an opportunity to put a little branding, you know, in the town, that we should do it. But that's me. Anybody but
It was a very nice presentation. When we went to the new system 7 years ago, it was very upsetting to a lot of people.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
But it was necessary. We had to do it. So, thank you.
I live in High Springs myself. The entire city of High Springs was addressed on its own county city grid at one time, was surrounded by a 298th Street stopping, and now all of a sudden it's Northwest 5th Avenue. So I lived at 3310 Northeast Kensington Place. My address was changed. So it's a little tough, but we do our very best to make notifications to everybody, especially Google. We have had trouble with people call our office because they're not getting their mail. Well, we deal with the post office all the time. Come to find out, we'll tell the person, go out there and speak to the mail delivery person. You know what they're using? Their phone with Google Maps on it. That's what they're using. So, and Google Maps is not 100% correct because they do the entire planet. So they'll get around to High Springs at some point. Is that it? Thank you, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners. All right. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you. So, Ash, you want to add this to the agenda?
Yes, I'll add it.
All right. I'm sorry, anyone from the audience have any questions? Anyone from the audience?
Mr. Mayor, there's no one on Zoom either.
Okay, all right, thank you, Keith. Good to see you. Been a long time. All right, we're gonna move on. Citizen requesting comments. This is not on the agenda. Please state your name for the record. And you have, limit your comments to 5 minutes, please.
Mr. Mayor, we have nobody on Zoom and nobody coming forward in the commission chambers.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, we'll move on to new business. Discuss and consider the act of ranking the two companies for the water meter system replacement and authorizing staff to negotiate the contract.
This is what I get for going on vacation. This item's mine as well. What I would like is to, yeah, exactly. What I'd like to have is a little bit of discussion. I'd like for the commission's permission to discuss with both companies to start negotiating which direction we should go and to have some conversation with y'all next week one-on-one to see which direction you would like to go outside of a public forum, just so we could start the process of moving this forward. I'd like to be able to come back into March, beginning of April with something so we can start getting this process rolling. So I'd like permission to do that.
Do you just need a consensus for you to move forward?
Yes, ma'am. The RFQ. So now we're going to start negotiating into money. I mean, you guys have heard both presentations. This is what made this so hard. This is why you saw both of them. We've read through this. We've looked at it. I've beat my head against a wall with this. I've talked to Newberry. I've talked to Lake City. I've talked to a bunch of we've talked to everybody. And I think we're talked out. We're having a very tough time trying to figure out which way we want to go. We have this is a good chance. This is a very good program. There's a lot of positives in this. You heard from Florida Rural Water when they were here that we have a lot of non-revenue water that we're trying to account for still. Right. This is going to help with that. We have a lot of people coming in about water meters. We had one last meeting. This is a chance to clean all that up. It's a good chance to start over, make it work. This is one thing you heard from both companies, something we pushed really hard on is we want something that was expandable. Mm-hmm. Not that we have any plans right this minute, but you never know what the future's going to bring. I don't want to buy something and have to scrap it in 5 years, but something that's expandable and something that if for some reason we can't get these meters because they're not available, that we could use another meter for the time being, or if we have to change meters at some point, that was, expandable as well. So those were a lot of our criterias. Both have met that, and now I think it's time for us to get permission to start negotiating contracts and sit down with y'all next week, and I'll make some phone calls, and if y'all want to sit down one-on-one, we can, and start working through this, and we can get with the companies and start making this happen. Not going to be cheap. Just throwing that out there. So, but it'll be. Listen, I've been straightforward on it since the beginning. This is not going to be cheap, but if we do this right with implementation and the deferred payment and everything else, we're going to have to finance it just because of the cost. But in the grand scheme of things, this will pay for itself every year. And then with depending on which meters we go with, you got 15, 20 years. We'll have 8 to 10 years of payments on this system, and then we'll own it and we'll be paying ourselves back for 8 to 10 years, and we'll have to do it again. But I think it's a good business choice for the city to be able to protect one of our greatest assets.
Well, I think it will help with all the problems that come in the door. That will save time, a lot of time, if it can be done on the internet or somebody sends you a message or whomever gets the message. You won't have people coming in the door waving their water bill, so.
Yeah, but logistically, the end user's gonna be able to see it. Logistically, we're gonna be able to see what they're seeing. They're gonna see what
Yeah.
we're seeing. Leak detection's huge. Tampering. I mean, we get a lot of tampering. I mean, there is a lot of tampering that happens in town. I mean, we'd love to say everybody's honest and logistically we can make it right, but it happens. You know, we run into the fixed income and I need to be able to take my medicine, the trickle effect, the automatic shut off. We're not putting staff in harm's way having to go out and turn off meters and turn them on. I mean, listen, you'd be the nicest person in the world. We go out and shut their water off. They're not going to be real nice when we go do it. Also, it's real time. The on-call person doesn't even have to come in. They can do it from home. So it's a lot quicker. Oh, I paid my bill online. We verify it. We see it's paid. Boom, done. Turn it on. Somebody calls at 2 o'clock in the morning, hey, I got a busted pipe in my wall. We're not waiting somebody 45 minutes to drive in or 30 minutes to drive in to turn it off. It's instantaneous. So.
You saw me looking at you.
Oh, yeah, I can feel it.
Well, you started talking about money.
Oh, yeah.
As part of negotiations with both of these companies, could we put into that matrix figuring out what the cost differential would be to be able to provide irrigation meters at the same time if we're going to be switching things out? And then we could, I mean, obviously there'd be an additional cost if people wanted an irrigation meter, but that too could pay for itself pretty quickly if they weren't paying wastewater to water their bushes.
So one thing we looked at doing, when we did the RFQ for this, in the meter count, I included all the irrigation meters we had. So that was already factored into this program. So they'll get new ones when that goes down. We've looked at new subdivisions. If they're putting irrigation systems in, those developers are going to be required to put, I believe, we're heading down that road, that the developers will be required to put irrigation meters in, no more of this, putting it on a regular water meter.
Yeah, it's in the development agreement that they have to put an irrigation meter with every new house.
But that's a cost once I pull down, we got numbers, I can pull it down and get an idea, and I can give you cost without it, and then we'll have a cost with, and then it's something we can explore. I think it's a good idea. I think it's something we probably need to go ahead and do anyhow, and just get it online, because then it addresses those issues. And we can logistically talk about that further.
Any other questions?
I think that's a good idea. We could get that attached. I like that idea. And I like this whole program once we can get it up and running. Like you say, it'll pretty much take care of itself, and it will definitely save a lot of headaches and a lot of complaints. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, and we know we're short-staffed in Public Works, and asset management's a key component to this, and letting them come out and deal with the meter issues. Oh, we got a problem with these 5 meters, they need to come out and check it. Yeah, we'll still have to go out and do the manual reads if it's not picking up, and they'll have to come down and handle it. But that's something to take it off our plate. We can still do new installs. That's not a problem. They're gonna have to come in and program it, and I'm sure, depending on how we negotiate everything out, there'll be a bulk amount of meters sitting here on site. Our staff will go and put them in, coupon them, put them in, and then they'll come in and program it and get it rolling. And logistically, just how we work it out. It's gonna relieve a huge amount off of that water department. I mean, there's literally 3 people in water. No, actually 4, excuse me. And that's it. I mean, you got 3,000 meters in the ground. And water mains, I mean, we've had 3 water main issues in the last week. So from Wednesday night all the way to this week, we had one today. So they're tied up doing other things. And then we have, XYZ calling and saying, hey, my water bill is more expensive than it was last month, and I need you to come out and check my stuff. And you're still having to deal with those as well. So this will help clean some of that up. And the leak detection is going to help with that non-revenue water. So, and we're going to be getting hammered on that. We're going to be hitting, I mean, he brought up the lead and the lead. I mean, we're going to get hit on that. We're going to get hit on lead and copper. We got Transite we're going to get hit on. There's a lot of things coming down the pipe, I mean, outside of this that we're going to have to address with our water system. And this is just step 1.
So, submission is you're not okay?
Yes, sir.
Negotiating?
Yes, sir.
So we get a nod for all commissioners?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. Look forward to hearing back from you, see what we got on this system.
Yes, sir. I'll be getting with y'all next week one-on-one, and also start conversations with the 2 companies on Monday, and we'll start pushing get some things going in directions. And any additional questions you have, I'll ask them.
Okay, all right.
Perfect.
All right, thank you.
Next item's
All
mine,
right,
too.
so moving on to item number 4, discuss and consider the act of the approval of a 3-year contract extension with the Government Service Group.
All right, this is GSG, the Government Services Group. This is the company that's been providing our fire assessment for our community since 2008. This is our standard 3-year contract renewal with them. One difference in this contract, you will see it's a little more 1 year, is we are going to redo our fire assessment study just to see where we're at, to make sure we're within the parameters we need to be, see where the fees need to be. If we're too high, too low, need to make adjustments, and they'll come back, and it's just time to redo our study for legality. So staff's recommend to stay with GSG. We've got a good working relationship with them. They know our system really well. This covers legal services on that side as well. If we get challenged, their attorneys will handle it and work with our attorneys for anything different. Any questions? Yes, sir. Feel like we just did this 3 years ago.
Commissioners?
I move that we accept the 3-year contract extension with GSG.
I second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Anyone from the audience like to speak on this? No one is moving, I can't see.
There's no hands on Zoom this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. You said no hands?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Motion been made and second. All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Item number 6.
Approve a resolution amending, I'm sorry.
Number 5.
Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself, I'm sorry. Okay, discuss and consider active proposed projection that may fund with American Rescue Plan Act. Okay,
Okay, Mayor, yes, I have a really short presentation on this. I'll let Kevin bring it up just to kind of go over with y'all the projects that y'all ranked. Staff added more projects. Obviously, y'all can add more projects too to the list. It came to over $7 million. And as you know, we have 3 million. So, and actually, that was actually shortened a little bit because there were some people that submitted projects. I'm like, like just this one project is more than our total amount of ARPA funds. So we handled a little bit of that. Again, I'm not asking y'all to make a decision tonight. We want to discuss the date of the workshop. This is just information for y'all to kind of think about prior to the workshop, so to help y'all get prepared and just kind of let you know where we're at. And then at the workshop, what we want to do is have the departments talk about their projects individually, because when the individual department heads get into why their projects are important, I think that's additional information that's very important for y'all to have in your final decision making. Okay, so obviously these are the ARPA funds. The original uses, public health, negative economic impacts, services to disproportionately impacted communities, revenue replacement, premium pay, water and sewer infrastructure, and broadband infrastructure. We've already gone over that before and what those different categories mean. Since our last discussion on this, they've come back and loosened the guidelines, and it's a lot more flexible now. So there are a lot of projects we couldn't do before that we can do now, but looking back over what's important for the city of High Springs in the strategic plan, it didn't change really, I think, what staff would have brought to y'all for projects, with a couple additions that we will talk about on one of the last slides. So your highest ranked projects were the police body cameras, followed by number 2 is premium pay for police. The SCADA system replacement upgrade for water, we put that in with the new well. So y'all can kind of take that off the table because it's being funded through the new well. Software for water, this is really that UB software. It was split between water and sewer. So, we do really need new UB software. The generators for lift stations we've discussed. We still need the SCADA system for wastewater, which is particularly important with the new wastewater treatment plant that will come online soon. Spare pumps for lift stations, broadband for parks and downtown, and Eric did a really good job, you'll see in a future slide, breaking down the costs in each park. We're still trying to figure out what downtown would cost. Administrative software, that's the finance, HR, and budget software that we desperately need because Springbrook is, we're kind of just outgrown Springbrook at this point. Fire bay floor doors and openers. And the next, this is part of the highest ranked projects. Just so you know, these are everything that was above a 10 is what I included on this list of 19. And so you need to add a 1. I didn't notice that. This is actually 11, 12, 13, 14. The City Hall elevator and generator. I personally enjoy the elevator. I think it's fun. So that will disappoint me if it moves forward. The lighting and sidewalks. So this is not the lighting project downtown that was ranked. This is for disproportionately impacted areas of the city. So just to clarify that. Fire department roof, heavy equipment for the water department, software for the wastewater. This is the utility billing, paging system for fire. Parks multi-purpose building came in at 17. And again, like when you look at this, there's many different scopes if you move forward on how you could do this. Opioid task force and repainting of the water tower, because as you know, it's, it has lead paint on it right now. Okay, so just to, there's around 5 or 6 areas that were highlighted, and that's because those are not items that were on the original survey that we've come up with since then that we want y'all to consider at the workshop. So we put in there critical water and sewer infrastructure projects. That has come from, we're wrapping up the facility plan for water and sewer, and in the next month or two, I'll let Bruce talk about this. They're going to be presenting it, and Bruce, you can go ahead because he's looking at me like, let me talk.
Couplers and copper and ductile iron. We got to come up with a plan on what direction we're going to do it. When we started, we're looking at our facilities plan, some of this other stuff, our water audit. And we've got to figure out about a $10 million hole over the next several years. So this is part of that, of what we got to start working towards and trying to get things right. So it's all infrastructure stuff we got to deal with. We're granting stuff, we're running through stuff, we're getting as much as we can, but water grants, as we know, are pretty few and far in between. The ones we can apply for, we've been readily getting and moving forward to, but that plan will be available here shortly. There's one for water, there's one for sewer. You'll be able to break it out. You'll be able to see it, hold it, touch it. But overall, it's like a $13 million impact on water, and about $10 million of it is going to be available with some grant fund and different other funding sources that we'll be working towards here shortly.
And again, you'll learn more about what those critical projects are in the next month or two, and we can talk more about it during the workshop session. We just put that in there as a holding place. I know it's a large number. It takes out a lot of other projects, but it's important, and I think you'll understand why. The multi-purpose building, we put this on there just for the design. Now, obviously, $600,000 is a lot just for the design. And again, the hopes is, that there are grants that we can submit for, or we can try to get it appropriated through the legislature. I'm not sure if they would appropriate a rec center. But if you want to do something much smaller scale, then the design would be cheaper. I do not feel we have the money right now to operate and maintain a rec center at all. In fact, I know we don't. So, what I would look at more is if you design something, you're not building the whole thing at once, right? It might just be you have a gym, right? And you have a piece of property, and then you add on the other pieces as the community grows. So that's why there's so much in there for the design, so you're designing for the future, even though you're only putting in, you know, a small piece of it, if y'all decide that you want to go that route. So I just want to explain the large number for design. The lighting and sidewalks, 500,000. The premium pay ranked very high. We estimate around 400,000 for that. The police building design, again, that was, you know, you're designing for the future, so it doesn't mean you put down the whole thing at once. The Taj Mahal, you know, you put down the piece that fits us now, but you have the design for the future, so you can add on and expand and not have to do weird things with the building, if that makes sense. Heavy equipment, water and sewer, both 350. The generators for the lift station, we're estimating 300. Water main upgrades and replacements, 300. That's just for like our portion of a grant match or something for the next projects that come up, so we can have money for that. The mid-range projects, administrative software, just because we're looking at modules for several departments. So that's not just budget or just finance. It's a lot of money the first year to get the initial software and for the implementation, and then it's less every year after for a smaller amount for subscriptions. Small business programs, 200,000. This is a new one, the LDC and the subdivision regs. As you know, this last year, I did not put as much as was needed for the LDC for staff to take on. I mean, it would be nice if we had a little more money in there because the LDC is a huge undertaking. So with this amount, we still would need to do a significant portion of it. You know, I could probably take that down 50,000, but 100,000 to have, you know, Kimley Horn or someone just kind of review everything for statutory requirements. Someone additional to me would be very helpful. And then the subdivision regs, that's our design and development standards, and that's the book that, you know, tells you how thick the concrete needs to be, you know, on the roadways, and how, you know, what size they need to be, and, you know, all that sort of stuff. So that needs to be rewritten too. There's a lot of loopholes in that, just like there have been in the comp plan that is coming to you this next month, and the LDC, and those need to be closed. The roof for City Hall, 150, Catherine Taylor. Now this 150 for Catherine Taylor, there's already money budgeted in parks for that. So this would just be additional money to finish out some of the, you know, amenities on the site. Cardiac monitors, 130. City Hall roof, that was a new one that we didn't put in that we thought we should put in. We're estimating around 125,000. Fire bay doors and openers, 110. The valve project is 100,000. You know, that is to take care of things like, you know, this past weekend when the vehicle hit the fire hydrant and then we were down, you know, had boiled water for a few days. So we can take care of some of those issues. Spare pumps for lift stations, engineering for the new water plant. And that is so we can get it engineered so we can apply for grants. Engineering for sewer plant so we can get it engineered so we can be for the sewer plant expansion. Fire bay vent system and public works building design, that's the same thought process as the other ones. Go ahead and get it designed right. You know, you don't have to build the whole thing all at once. You know, just, you know, what you need now, and then you have room to expand. Okay, I know y'all can read, so I'll try, you know, not to keep doing this. Give you some relief on one of the last slides. So as you can see, just pick out some things from this. The fiber between the city buildings, Eric got us an estimate of 84,000. Fire paging system, 45,000. The City Hall renovations, that's a new one. We need some more office space in City Hall, so this is like some money to do renovations to get more office space, because there's people that need offices that are just kind of making do in situations that we would prefer we put them in better spaces. And it goes all the way down to the opioid task force and the police mobile surveillance cameras. These were some projects that ranked lower than staff would have liked them to, so I just want to bring those out for y'all to think about prior to the workshop meeting. The critical water and sewer projects, obviously, because we hadn't had that on there. But the engineering for the water plant and wastewater treatment plant, staff's desire is that it move up higher in the ranking list. The LDC y'all didn't know about, but that's very important that we get it done very quickly because we only have a year after the comp plan to get it done statutorily. And the cardiac monitors, obviously, they're a life-saving device, and we would like y'all to consider moving that up in the workshop session as well. And that's pretty much all I have. And if we could pick if y'all want to discuss what you want to now, and we could pick the date for the workshop session, and then we can kind of get into longer, deeper discussion there.
Could you email us your presentation?
Yes, ma'am. And I also, so here, just to point this out, you have the ranking of all the projects per department, followed by the ranking all overall, top to bottom, followed by, we did the same thing, the price per department. Bruce spent all the money, just to let y'all know. And the top to bottom for cost-wise too. So don't forget to take this home. I'll email this to you as well.
So I guess we need to set a workshop. I'm sorry.
And if there's anything else y'all want us to put on the list and get some estimates for, or just any feedback you have in between the workshop session, please get it to us so we can prepare for everything you need.
Okay. Mayor, okay, I like what you've put together since you got our numbers. And for me, numbers really help. Because some things that I particularly favor, just looking at the number that's now attached to it, I would easily trade it for some other things. One thing I think it would help me as you talk with city staff and as we get ready for the workshop is, what is critical in terms of like health and safety, like the cardiac monitors, I think fall into that category. They've been on loan from the Alachua County. They're due to be replaced. We need to have that. We just had someone in our last meeting that spoke about how important our EMS services were. To me, that's a health and safety issue. Then there's another category that's just like, to me, it's a no-brainer. Like the floor at the bay, we've ordered 2 fire trucks that won't fit in the old bays. So they're going to have to go in the back bays, which means if we get a brush truck running again, it's going to need a bay to go into or sit outside, which wouldn't make any sense. So that's, to me, protecting assets.
Right.
And so if there are things that are health and safety, protecting assets, that you help us understand what those are on the list.
Okay.
So that, we can see how far we can make $3+ million go and a real benefit to the citizens.
Oh, yes, I agree.
Thanks.
Mr. Mayor, may I? Yes, sir. These numbers are really helpful. And it's, adding on the dollar value to the ranked number is huge for me. My preference would be that we do the most critical, but the fewer number of different projects. I prefer to fracture the cost of everything to just what's really the most important. So it makes it easier to track. I know you were talking about hiring somebody to do that reporting for us. And if we're doing 7 projects with the $3 million instead of 20
Yeah.
partially, I would much rather do the fewer number just to make it, our birth to death, we can finish the effort.
Right. I understand.
I think we made that comment before. I'm sorry, Mayor. No, I was just saying that I think before we had made the comment on being able to do some projects that we could actually complete as opposed to having a whole string of partially completed projects. It had come through before.
No, sir, I was just going to say that I guess we need to set a workshop date.
So we.
And
Got a calendar.
We were thinking a Tuesday or Thursday night. There is one Tuesday that we are, Kimley Horn has been tied up some Thursday evenings with other people they're doing projects for and things going on. So we wanted to have the comp plan. What date was that, Jenny? Do you remember? So April 5th, we wanted to request the comp plan be done on the April 5th, which is a Tuesday, and then we could do this on any other Tuesday or Thursday of the month, or if you want to do a Friday or Saturday as well. But I think, so it's how we can do daytime or nighttime, whatever y'all prefer.
Mr. Mayor, I'm flexible, so.
My weekends are pretty much tied up, so I'm not to, we are trying to make it meet on the weekend.
Did you want to, did staff want to try and do the workshop with the commission sooner than later? Like in March or?
I would like to do it maybe like the third or fourth week in March. I'd like to get it done in March because I want to do some quick strategic planning with y'all. I don't think we have to do it as long as last year because y'all worked out so much last year, but it definitely needs an updating, and Commissioner Whites needs to be able to be a part of that prior to budget. And so we wanted to do something for that too. But I think the budget could do like maybe an hour before a commission meeting or something, you know.
Tuesday, March 22nd?
No, it works for me.
It's good for me.
Okay.
Okay.
At 6:30?
Yep.
Okay. Anything else? Anything else? Hear nothing. All right, we'll move on to item number 6. Approve a resolution amending the rules to procedures for section 20.
Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to read that by title only. It's resolution number 2022-D, resolution amending the rules of procedure for municipal meetings, section 20, order of business of meeting. And if y'all recall, this is about amending the rules to add in that the commission can respond during citizen comment. So that's been added on as subsection G of Rule 20.
And I did want to, we actually were having a discussion today. One thing we've talked about is adding consent to the rules of procedure as well. So would it be permissible for us, if they were in favor, if the commission was in favor, to approve the resolution with the addition of a consent item before new business as well?
Absolutely, that would just be in the motion.
Okay.
So
we wanted y'all to consider adding a consent item. That would be for things like, things that you pretty much, we know you're going to approve, like minutes can be on consent, things like that. And then you have the opportunity, say we have like 3 or 4 things on consent, and if you want to talk about one of them, you just pull it off consent and discuss it, and you approve the other items. So it'll help, like when we have something that we know is going to take a long time, then it just helps the agenda move faster so you can focus on the things you want to focus on.
And that's going on the new business?
We wanted to put it right after a commissioner's response to the citizen comments, right prior to new business is where we want to put it. And so it wouldn't be on every agenda, just the ones that, the agendas, sometimes we don't have unfinished business if we don't have anything, but the agendas that look like, there's several items on there that can just be taken care of quickly, we would just put those on those agendas.
Okay. Okay.
I
Is
move
there a
that we-
motion?
Are there any questions before I make a motion?
No.
I move that we accept the changes to the agenda as discussed.
Second.
And a second. Any other discussion? Anyone from the audience? Anyone from Zoom, Kevin?
No, sir.
All right, Jen, I think that's a roll call vote?
Yes, sir. Mayor Williams,
Yeah.
Vice Mayor James.
Yes.
Commissioner Ambrose.
Yes.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner Whites.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. All right, move on to item number 7. Discuss the CSHR 143, single member district.
Mr. Mayor, I asked, and I apologize for my scribbling. I was in a hurry when I did this, didn't have time to type it. I've been attending, well, actually, since the Charter Review Committee for Alachua County in 2020, a number of us have been attending meetings regarding this single-member district. This subject was the largest attended and had the most proposals under that item for the CRC. And we tried on several attempts to have it placed on the agenda just for discussion, and we couldn't even get that far. And this is, a lot of people were involved. I was looking at the video today, and it's so long I couldn't see for sure how many. There were a lot of commissioners and mayors who spoke in favor of it, but we were not able to get it on the ballot. Representative Clemens heard a number of people were concerned about this, so he decided to put it on up at the Florida legislature. And I've spoken at a meeting they had as well at Santa Fe College, and there are so many people who are for it, and though you hear the opposing side say there's only a handful of people, the one way that we could settle this is to put it on a ballot. And that way, if we vote it down, then it's done. But if we do approve it, then it's a whole new ballgame. So I propose that we send, there was a lot of us who were in agreement with this. I propose that we send a letter to Representative Clemens telling him that we support the bill with a caveat that we are not saying that we approve it or oppose it, the bill, just that we want to have the citizens approve it, vote for it, I beg your pardon, citizens vote for it. And that's, it's going to go to the floor probably in a couple of weeks. I've done a quick draft letter I'll pass out if it's voted to pass. And if it's not, then it's a moot issue.
Mayor? I'm glad Commissioner Jones has brought this up because, we do have a different county commission now than we had that appointed the last Charter Review Commission, but it wasn't the first time this issue tried to be addressed. And the fact that it couldn't even be heard says there is a problem. And as much as I'm a favor of home rule and Tallahassee staying out of local issues, the Alachua County Commission structure has made it really hard for change to be implemented as the growth has happened outside of the city of Gainesville. And the fact that this issue is just being proposed to get it on the ballot so the issue can be heard, I'm actually in support of it. I think the message needs to be sent, that the rural communities need to have a larger voice in what's happening in the county. And this is a way to send that message. And yeah, I don't like what I see being published, and I don't think it represents, and I'd like citizens to have an opportunity to weigh in. So I agree with Commissioner Jones.
Mr. Mayor, may I?
Yes.
I do too. I mean, whether you're for a single-member district or not, giving the people the opportunity to say yay or nay is critical, and I absolutely support this.
Well, I guess, Mr. Mayor, that sort of makes us unanimous over here, because I see absolutely nothing wrong in letting the citizens make the final decision as to what should be there. So I'm all for it as well.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'll read quickly what I typed up real quick to send to Representative Clemens. It's just a short letter for your signature. It says, this letter will serve as approval by the City of High Springs of CSHB 1493. As you have stated, we do not support or oppose single-member district. We believe the voters of Alachua County should be allowed to vote on it. Sincerely, with your name. So that's basically, I wanted to go ahead and provide something so that if we wanted to move with it, perhaps we could use this as a basis for sending, and not having to wait for 2 weeks to the next meeting.
So basically what you asking that we send this letter to him, saying that we want this to go
On the ballot.
to be
On the ballot.
on the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And not that we're opposed or for it, it's just put it on the ballot is what we're asking for.
For the citizens to vote on it. I have no problem with it if they, since you said we don't agree or disagree, we just want the citizens to vote. Okay. Just send this letter to Chuck. Am I correct?
Yes, he's the one that has put the bill in for approval, and it's gone through its third meeting, and the first two were unanimous. The one just held this week was, there's 22 people, and it was 15-7, I believe, yeah. So it's moving right along.
Problem with that, like I said, I really haven't read up on this, but I don't have a problem sending the letter to him.
Do we just need a consent?
I would make a motion.
Okay. I make a motion that we send a letter to Representative Clemens regarding CSHB 1493.
And Clem's gonna use this letter to present to the whatever next committee you're going to?
Well, he will have it to submit along with his paperwork that he moves through each committee. And I've heard that they think it's going to the floor in about 2.5, 3 weeks.
I'll second that. I had just minor changes. But I'll just set that Linda provide the letter to Byron, and if it stayed the way it is, I'd be fine with it, or
Well,
those changes, but I like the letter.
Okay.
Say it again, Ross?
You can,
I didn't hear you. Commissioner Ross?
In the first sentence, the word approval, I just would be support. It's a minor thing, and then this second sentence, just start, we do not support or oppose a single-member district. We believe the voters of Alachua County should be allowed to vote. So there's just, cross out as you have, as you stated.
That's good.
Yeah, but that's it. And I think it's appropriate.
We'll give that to, because I'm coming from the city.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's coming from the city or from me.
It will come on city letterhead, but you'll sign it as mayor, right?
It's coming from the city, not from me. That's the question I'm asking.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's been moved and seconded.
We got a move to the second? Okay, I'm sorry. All right, any other discussion, anyone from the audience?
No, I see no hands at this time.
All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. All righty. Citizen Attorney report, updates.
Nothing for me, Mr. Mayor. Short and simple.
Nancy Scott there tonight?
Yes.
He's here tonight.
Got no hair of anything? Huh?
He just missed y'all, wanted to come say hey.
Okay. Hey, Scott. All righty. We're moving on to city manager report and updates.
I don't have anything this evening. Just, get ready for the special workshop meetings. There's going to be a few coming up, so we'll send out something with all the dates to remind everyone.
Okay.
Just to make you aware, the next CRA meeting is going to be March 24th. We'll be doing it at 5 p.m. Also, myself and Dave met yesterday. We'd like to do all the CRA meetings the fourth Thursday of the month at 5:30 to have consistent CRA meetings with agenda items being due by the second Thursday of the month. If you have anything additional to add to it, we'd like to do it an hour before the commission meeting. We'll try to keep it to 1 to 2 items and try to get some consistency back in our rotation with CRA to start running through some of these items and get some of this stuff knocked out. And if we feel that we need to make some changes, we can address that as we go down the road. Any objections to that thought process? So we'll start CRA meetings consistently the fourth Thursday of the month prior to the commission meeting. We'll do them at 5:30, except for the one on the 24th. We're going to do at 5 just because we got a longer agenda that we need to run through a few things on. And then if you have anything, just try to get it to us by the second Thursday of the month so we can clean it up, and we'll try to get it out with the agenda packet at the same time we get the commission to pack it out. Okay? And thank.
I don't have a
Everybody's fine
problem
with
with it,
that?
and we've done it before. I don't know, Catherine.
I'll have to rework some things, but I can figure that out.
It's once a month,
It's
so
a, yeah,
maybe you can.
I can do it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make it consistent, so we're not trying to move some things around, and we're already here for one meeting, so I was just we wanted to go back to try to see if we can make it work.
We did it before. I'm calling Scott to make it sometime. Okay. Anything else?
No, sir, that's it.
All right, any announcements? No announcements. All right.
Actually, I do, Mr. Mayor. Nobody knows this yet. I'm just telling you now. I was at the Alachua County League of Cities in Hawthorne this past week. And some of y'all are going to get to meet all of these people who've not met them before, because we're going to have it here, April 26th. So you will get to meet a lot of these people in the county, and it's really an interesting meeting. So, April 26th, huh?
League of Cities.
League of Cities, uh-huh.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think she knew about it, didn't Traylon?
I just found out about it, but like I'm excited about it. So yeah.
Oh, you'll like it.
I think they feed, don't they? Don't somebody sponsor?
We will have
a
to
meal
feed
or-
them. Very easy, though. They're an easy group.
WCA and different waste companies kind of sponsored the food, but we can work that out. Bruce could cook for us. You didn't hear that?
Director can cook.
And the new public works director is a pit master. I mean that might or might not have weighed in on the decision to hire him. He's a professional pit master, like barbecue. He can make enough for like our whole staff. Right.
That's what he gets for missing the meeting.
All right. Commissioner Watts, do you have anything?
I just want to say thank you to everybody here. Sitting here as a half Ukrainian person, seeing what's happening in the world today, I am so grateful to be part of this kind of group, knowing that we have the freedoms and the ability to agree and disagree and respect each other. And I just am so grateful. That's all I have.
Other than thanks to the city staff for all their work with the water and everything, I have nothing. So thank you. I think that was well handled.
Commissioner Jones?
I just have two items that I wanted to clarify. When Commissioner Ambrose was talking about his abstention from voting, or that he's not going to abstain from voting, he mentioned the chambers, someone being on the board for the chambers, and that was not a problem. Well, I went back and looked. I thought I remembered correctly, but Gloria, of course, was our chambers person, and she abstained. I've got 2 copies of meetings, so she abstained each time something with the chambers came up. And also the chamber, the last meeting we had, the workshop, the agenda portion that has not been turned in yet, and you mentioned the chamber again as far as not being always prepared, or they don't always have all the information before their event. But in fact, they do. They have, if you go online, you'll see that the Pioneer Days is very, very much on its way. All they're doing is waiting for more checks to come in, people to sign up. So it just, they are moving along, and they do have a plan for the next year. Thank you.
As a continuation of that, I think they actually have out an agenda for the Pioneer. They pretty much put together, not finalized, but they've worked on it.
Right.
Staff met with them today, just on Pioneer Days, just to go over some stuff as well. Just making you aware.
I'm done. That's it.
I don't think just a question, I guess, for the city manager and maybe Jenny. I think is there a procedure for as renaming a building or a street in the city of High Springs?
Yes.
Yes, sir,
There
there
is.
is.
Yeah.
It
I'm not asking that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think it involves the property owners all doing a petition or something. Yeah.
I'll look up the resolution and send it to everybody.
Okay. And the reason I was asking that question is I can't remember what the name of the old school. I know it's a long name, the High Springs Old School, something. And since Mr. Dillman name kept coming up during these meetings, it was just a thought. Maybe there's a possibility we can name the old school after him over there. Just a food for thought. It's food for thought. If there's nothing else, I take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, meeting adjourned. Y'all have a good night and